I thought my family's love was unshakable until I discovered my college fund was gone. My mother, the woman who always preached fairness, had secretly drained it to finance my brother's extravagant wedding. I smiled through graduation debt-free, but only because I had clawed my way there alone, while Michael was showered with gifts I never saw. The betrayal cut deeper than any stranger's theft because it came from blood, and yet that was only the beginning. What they thought would keep me silent will instead ignite a truth that could tear apart our golden family image forever. When people looked at my family from the outside, they saw perfection. The white two-story house with trimmed hedges, the driveway where my brother's shiny new car was parked, the manicured lawn where my mother hosted summer barbecues. Neighbors used to say we were the model American family. My mother basked in it, smiling as if she had built an empire. To them, I was just another brick in the wall of her masterpiece, the quiet daughter who studied hard and never caused trouble. To me, it always felt like being part of a photograph where my smile never quite matched the others. At dinner, the sound of laughter bounced off the walls. My father told old jokes, Michael boasted about his promotion, and my mother laughed so loudly it seemed rehearsed. Plates clinked, wine poured, and everything smelled of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. From the outside, it was the portrait of happiness, but from my seat at the corner of the table, I noticed the subtle choreography. Michael always sat in the center next to Mom. Dad leaned toward him with pride. I was tucked away at the edge like an afterthought. If you glanced at our family albums on Facebook, you'd think we were glowing. Sunlit pictures, perfect smiles, captions about cherishing every moment together. But here's something no one else noticed. In almost every picture, I wasn't in the middle. I was always cropped at the side, half-shadowed, or sometimes missing entirely. If you look closely enough, you'll see it. That subtle absence wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. The first real crack appeared the day I asked Mom about my college fund. I had overheard relatives at a barbecue say something about the fund being used well. My curiosity prickled. That night, I walked into the kitchen where Mom was folding towels. "Mom, what happened to my college fund? Did you ever use it for my tuition?" She didn't flinch. Without even looking up, she said, "You already graduated, didn't you?" "Debt-free." "You didn't need it." Her tone was casual, as if she were explaining why she bought whole milk instead of skim. I froze. Debt-free? Sure, I didn't have loans, but that wasn't because she paid my tuition. It was because I had worked double shifts in coffee shops, filled out endless scholarship applications, and lived off instant noodles to make ends meet. That fund, the one I was promised since childhood, had never touched my account. I tried to press her. But wasn't that money supposed to be for me? I thought. She cut me off with a sigh, finally meeting my eyes. "Rachel, you're lucky. You managed on your own. Not everyone can. You should be proud of yourself." I wanted to scream. Proud? I had nearly broken myself in half to graduate, and all the while the fund that was meant to help me had simply vanished? But her words left me disarmed, tangled in guilt and confusion. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was lucky. Maybe I should be grateful. Still, the thought gnawed at me. If the money hadn't gone to me, then where had it gone? The answer came in a place I didn't expect: Facebook. Mom had just uploaded another album titled Michael's Wedding Preparations. I clicked through the glossy photos. Michael trying on tuxedos, Mom beaming in bridal shops, receipts spread across tables. And then I noticed the captions. "Worth every penny. My son deserves the best." My stomach churned. Worth every penny. Suddenly, the missing fund wasn't a mystery anymore. The pieces fell into place, cruelly neat. My college fund had been drained, repurposed to finance Michael's dream wedding. I scrolled further, searching for myself in those digital pages. I wasn't there. The album had pictures of Michael, of Mom, even of Dad laughing in the background. But me? Not a trace. It was as though I had been edited out of my own family. My finger hovered over the like button, but I couldn't click it. All I could think about was the weight of every late-night shift, every rejection letter from scholarship committees, every dollar I had scraped together to buy textbooks, all while the money promised to me was poured into champagne towers and silk gowns. If you were me, would you have asked her again? Would you have demanded answers, risked the explosion? Or would you have swallowed it down, pretending it didn't matter? I closed the laptop, my chest tight. For the first time, I realized my family's golden image wasn't just a little flawed, it was built on a foundation that excluded me entirely. But this was only the first crack. The facade hadn't crumbled yet, at least not in their eyes, and that made it even more unbearable. The camera flash kept going in my head, snapshots of staged perfection, pictures where my absence was the loudest thing of all. If you look long enough, you'll see it. I was never meant to be in the middle of the frame. The days after my discovery blurred together, but the tension at home only sharpened. My mother moved through the world with her usual grace, posting inspirational quotes about sacrifice and family loyalty, parading herself as the woman who gave everything for her children. Neighbors adored her. Church friends praised her. On social media, she was a saint. "The things I do for my kids, no one will ever understand," she captioned under a picture of Michael holding a champagne glass. It was nauseating, because I did understand. I understood exactly what she had done, just not why. At every family gathering, the script was the same. Michael's accomplishments were listed like credits at the end of a movie. "He's so hard-working, such a provider," relatives would say. And then came the comparisons, subtle but sharp. "Rachel, you're lucky. You found scholarships, right? Not everyone is blessed like you." Lucky. That word cut more than they knew. They believed Michael's success was a result of Mom's relentless support, while my achievements were painted as strokes of fortune, accidents that required no sacrifice. I sat through the dinners, my fork heavy in my hand, my chest hollow with anger. Mom reinforced it again and again. "Michael is where he is because I guided him," she'd say proudly. Then, turning to me, her tone shifted. "Rachel, you were always independent. I didn't need to worry about you." It was framed as a compliment, but it felt like erasure. A backhanded way of saying my struggles weren't worth remembering. One night, after another dinner filled with laughter that didn't feel real, I went upstairs and sat at my old desk. I opened my laptop, staring at the glow of the screen. Something inside me, an instinct, a whisper, told me to look deeper. I searched through an old email account I hadn't opened in years, the one I used before college. Most of the messages were spam or outdated newsletters. But then I saw it, an unread email dated nearly 10 years ago from my grandmother. The subject line read, "For Rachel, when you are ready." My hands trembled as I clicked it open. The email was short, but its impact cracked my world wide open. "My dear Rachel," it began. "I know life in this family is not always easy for you. I wanted you to have something of your own. Enclosed in this will is a small inheritance, set aside in your name only. Use it for your dreams, not for anyone else's." Attached was a scanned copy of her will. My name was there, clearly written, with an amount of money that could have changed my entire college experience. It was supposed to be mine, but I had never seen a penny of it. My pulse thundered in my ears. Where had it gone? Why hadn't I been told? I printed the attachment, clutching it like proof of my own sanity. The next morning, I confronted Mom cautiously. "Did Grandma leave me something in her will?" I asked. Her expression froze for a split second, just long enough for me to notice, before softening into that polished mask she wore so well. "Oh, sweetheart, that was complicated. There were expenses, family decisions. You wouldn't understand." Family decisions. The phrase rattled in my skull. Later that night, unable to let it go, I searched through more documents in the old filing cabinet in the basement. Buried beneath tax forms and utility bills, I found bank statements, withdrawals that matched the inheritance amount almost to the dollar. The deposits were funneled into what was labeled Wedding Fund. Michael's Wedding Fund. My inheritance had been quietly redirected to pay for his big day. My throat tightened. Rage and grief twisted together until I could barely breathe, but the most crushing blow hadn't arrived yet, because when I showed the papers to my father, hoping for outrage, for solidarity, his face told me everything. He wasn't surprised. "I knew," he admitted quietly, his voice carrying the weight of resignation. "It was your mother's decision. I didn't want to disrupt the peace." Disrupt the peace. That was his excuse. My father, the man who had taught me to stand up for myself, had watched silently as my mother erased my inheritance, my security, my future. He hadn't lifted a finger. The betrayal dug deeper than any knife. It wasn't just Mom, it was both of them. She had orchestrated it, but he had allowed it. In that moment, I realized my family wasn't a single villain and a victimized bystander. They were complicit together, bound by silence and convenience. I thought of Grandma, of her careful handwriting on that will, of her words meant only for me. I imagined her face if she knew her final gift had been stolen, rerouted into flowers and catering for someone else's fairy tale. The golden family image I had once tried so hard to protect was dissolving, revealing something rotten underneath. It was never about love or fairness. It was about control, appearances, and keeping me in my place, on the edges of photographs, in the margins of stories, erased even from the legacy my grandmother intended for me. As I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, a thought burned so brightly it almost scared me. If they had stolen from me once, what else had they hidden? What other truths were buried beneath the polished veneer of our so-called perfect family? The poison had spread, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. The wedding was everything my mother had dreamed of and more. The ballroom glowed with chandeliers, the tables sparkled with crystal glassware, and Michael stood at the center like a crowned prince. Cameras lined the walls, phones lifted high, the entire night broadcast live across social media. To the world, it was a fairy tale. To me, it was the final nail in the coffin. I sat at the edge of the reception hall, wearing a dress I'd bought on clearance, trying to blend into the wallpaper. Laughter echoed, champagne poured, and the sound of applause thundered when my mother took the microphone. She stood tall, radiating pride. "Without me," she declared, her voice carrying through the hall and across the live stream, "none of this would have been possible. My children are nothing without the sacrifices I made." The audience cheered. Guests clapped as if she were a queen addressing her loyal subjects. My chest tightened. I had always known she saw herself as the architect of our lives, but hearing her say it so publicly, so shamelessly, was like swallowing broken glass. The comments flooded in on the live stream feed. "What an amazing mother! Rachel should be grateful to have a mom like her." And then one cut through me like a blade. "I heard Rachel never appreciated anything, such an ungrateful daughter." I stared at the screen, my eyes burning. Ungrateful. The word stuck in my throat. I had worked myself into the ground to survive without her support, and yet here I was, painted as the villain. I forced a smile for the cameras when they panned past me, though my insides were collapsing. My brother, oblivious or unwilling to see, raised his glass in a toast. Mom kissed his cheek, glowing in the spotlight. It was their moment, their empire, built on what had been stolen from me. And then my phone buzzed. A private message, from an account I didn't recognize. The profile picture was blank, the username a string of numbers. The message read, "I know the truth about your mother." I froze. My hands trembled as I opened it. "You don't know the half of what she's done. You're not the first." The room spun. For a second, I couldn't hear the music or the laughter, just the thudding of my pulse in my ears. Who was this? What did they mean? The rest of the night passed in a blur. I plastered on a smile when guests looked my way, but inside I was unraveling. I excused myself early, retreating to my apartment where the silence felt like it might crush me. Alone in the dark, I read the message again and again. The anonymous account sent another line. "I was one of her victims. She ruined me too." The words blurred through my tears. Victim. Ruined. My mother had always been cruel to me, dismissive, manipulative, but victims outside the family? What had she done? Sleep abandoned me. My body felt heavy, my mind drowning in questions I was too afraid to answer. I curled on the couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering what it would be like to just disappear, to slip away from all of it, the lies, the betrayal, the endless facade. For the first time, I considered it seriously. Maybe the world would be better without the ungrateful daughter. Maybe my absence would finally give my family the picture-perfect image they wanted. But the phone buzzed again, dragging me back. Another message from the same account. Don't let her break you. I can show you proof of what she's done. My breath caught. Proof. My hands shook as I typed back. Who are you? What do you know? The reply came quickly. She scammed me years ago, promised help, stole everything, and left me with nothing. She hides behind the image of a devoted mother, but outside your family, she's destroyed lives. I sat up, heart pounding. This wasn't just about favoritism, about inheritance, about being the forgotten child. This was bigger, darker. A chill ran through me as I realized the woman the world adored wasn't just toxic behind closed doors. She was dangerous everywhere. The wedding had been her triumph, her crowning glory, but in the shadows, her empire was built on deception that stretched far beyond our family. And now, someone else knew. Someone else had been hurt, just like me. My hands clenched into fists. I wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but most of all, I wanted answers. Because if this stranger was right, then my mother wasn't just my enemy. She was a predator, and the world had been cheering for her the whole time. As the night bled into dawn, I sat by the window, watching the city lights fade. My body ached from exhaustion, but my mind refused to rest. My family's perfect image was already cracked, but now I saw the fractures spreading wider, deeper. And in that silence, one thought consumed me. The truth had to come out, no matter how much it destroyed. The morning after the wedding, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest that felt like stone. My phone still lit with the anonymous messages, and for the first time in my life, I admitted it out loud. She ruined me. She's been ruining me my whole life. It wasn't just the inheritance. It wasn't just the college fund. It was the years of being dismissed, erased, and gaslit into believing I should be grateful for scraps while Michael was showered with everything. The truth came crashing down like glass shattering. I hadn't simply been unlucky. I had been deliberately silenced. Anger ignited in my veins. It wasn't a quiet anger. It was wildfire. Every memory replayed in my mind, reframed under this new light. The birthdays where my gifts were smaller, the photos where I was shoved to the edge, the endless refrain of, "You're independent, Rachel. You don't need help." It wasn't neglect. It was calculated abandonment. I opened my laptop and typed furiously into search bars, forums, communities dedicated to toxic families. That's how I stumbled into a group on Reddit. Children of narcissistic parents. Their stories bled into mine, uncanny in their similarities. Mothers who hoarded praise for one child while scapegoating the other. Fathers who stayed silent to keep the peace. Siblings who lived obliviously, basking in undeserved privilege. And then my breath hitched. I found posts about her, about Linda, my mother, different usernames, different years, but the same pattern. She promised to help me financially, then disappeared with the money. Linda presented herself as my savior, but she left me destroyed. Story after story. The pieces aligned too perfectly. She wasn't just my mother. She was a predator in plain sight. The chat window pinged. The anonymous account had sent another message. "You're not alone. There are more of us. Don't let her bury you like she buried me." For the first time, the weight on my chest began to shift. If there were others like me, then maybe I wasn't weak. Maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe I had been right all along. I whispered to myself, She won't silence me anymore. But knowing the truth wasn't enough. I needed evidence, something no one could dismiss as Rachel exaggerating again. So I started to collect. I printed Grandma's will, highlighting my name. I screenshotted the old emails. I downloaded the live stream clip where Mom declared, "Without me, my children are nothing." I compiled bank statements, family photos, social media posts. Piece by piece, I built a file, my arsenal. The process was painful, like ripping open old wounds, but each page stacked in the folder felt like armor. Proof that I wasn't imagining this. Proof that my life had been stolen in plain sight. One night, as I dug deeper into old emails, I found something that made my blood run cold. An exchange between Mom and Michael dated 2 years before his wedding. Mom: Rachel doesn't need the fund. She's fine on her own. Michael: if you're sure. I mean, it feels wrong, but if she's okay, I'll take it. I stared at the screen, my throat dry. He knew. My brother, the one I had envied, the one I thought was simply oblivious, had agreed to take what was mine. Maybe reluctantly, maybe under her influence, but he had agreed. The betrayal hit like a second wave. It wasn't just my mother. It was Michael, too. He had accepted the gift, knowing it came at my expense, and built his fairy tale wedding on my sacrifice. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands shaking. My mind screamed with a mix of fury and heartbreak. I had told myself Michael was just a pawn, another child blinded by her manipulation, but the emails proved otherwise. He had been a willing participant, maybe not the architect, but a silent conspirator who chose his comfort over my survival. If you found this out, what would you do? Would you confront your brother, demand an explanation, or let the truth rot inside you? Would you forgive blood, or would you burn the bridge to ash? I pressed my palms against my face, tears burning. The anger no longer felt chaotic. It was sharpening into resolve. I wasn't powerless anymore. They had stolen my past, but they would not own my future. I opened the folder of evidence again and whispered to the empty room, "I'll make them see. I'll make them all see." I didn't sleep for 3 nights straight. My folder of evidence grew thicker until it felt like a weapon I carried everywhere. I knew the moment was coming, and when it did, I needed the whole world watching. So one morning, with my hands trembling but steady enough to hit record, I looked into the camera on my phone and spoke. "My name is Rachel. You may know my mother as Linda, the devoted parent, the saint, the woman who built her family from nothing. But I need you to know the truth." I laid everything out piece by piece. The will my grandmother had written, the bank statements proving the inheritance was funneled into Michael's wedding, the emails where my brother agreed to take what wasn't his, the clip of Mom declaring, "Without me, my children are nothing." I didn't shout. I didn't scream. I spoke with the calm of someone who had finally decided she wouldn't be erased anymore. Then I uploaded it to TikTok. The video caught fire faster than I could breathe. Comments exploded within minutes. "This is insane! She stole from her own daughter?" "Rachel, we believe you." "How many more families like this are out there?" Within hours, it had millions of views. Strangers were stitching the video. Lawyers were weighing in. Survivors of similar parents were flooding my inbox. For the first time, my story wasn't just mine. It was everywhere. Mom called me within the hour. Her voice dripped venom. "Take it down, right now. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "I told the truth." Silence. Then the coldest whisper I'd ever heard. "You'll regret this." And for a moment, I thought maybe I would. Until I saw the news articles, the podcasts picking up the story, the endless support from strangers who recognized themselves in me. For once, the tide wasn't in her favor, but she wasn't finished. The next day, another video surfaced. My mother had leaked it. It was old footage, me at 17, sitting on my bed, tears streaking down my face. In the video, I begged her not to shut me out, my voice breaking. "Please, Mom, I just want you to love me." She posted it with the caption, "This is what I dealt with for years." She was unstable, manipulative, always playing the victim. The internet split in half. Some pitied me, others mocked me, calling me weak, dramatic, broken. My chest caved in as I scrolled through the comments. It felt like she had stripped me naked in front of the world, using my own pain as her shield. For a moment, I thought she had won. But then, something unexpected happened. My father, the man who had always chosen silence, stepped forward. In a shaky Facebook Live video, he finally spoke. His eyes were tired, his voice unsteady, but the words were clear. I can't stay quiet anymore. Rachel is telling the truth. Linda used the inheritance. She used Rachel's college fund, and I let it happen. I didn't protect her. I was a coward. The confession detonated through our family like a bomb. The press picked it up instantly. Headlines read, "Father confirms daughter's claims against beloved community mother." For the first time, Mom's mask cracked. She screamed at him in front of relatives, insisting he was lying, that he had betrayed her. But the damage was done. The perfect image she had guarded for decades crumbled in seconds. Michael tried to defend her at first, his voice rising in desperation. She did it for us, for family, for appearances. But when Dad looked him in the eye and said, "You knew, Michael. You let it happen." Something in my brother's face shifted. His jaw slackened. The illusion fell away. The family dinner that followed was chaos. Shouting, accusations, years of buried resentment surfacing all at once. Mom clawed at her version of the truth, but no one was buying it anymore. Not Dad, not Michael, not the cousins or uncles or aunts who sat in stunned silence. I stood up, my body trembling but firm, and said the words that had been waiting inside me for years. I'm done. I walked away from the table. I didn't look back, though I could feel their eyes burning into me. My mother screaming my name, my father sobbing quietly, Michael sinking into silence. Out on the porch, the night air hit my face like freedom. My hands were still shaking, but inside me a strange calm settled. For once, I wasn't asking for a place at the table. I was choosing to leave it behind. If you were me, would you ever forgive them? Would you believe family blood is enough to excuse betrayal this deep? Or would you walk away, even if it meant never looking back? I didn't have the answer. All I had was the sound of my footsteps fading into the night and the weight of a truth that could never be buried again. The weeks that followed were a blur of hearings, paperwork, and testimony. For the first time in years, I stood in front of people who mattered, judges, lawyers, journalists, and told my story without shame. My folder of evidence, once just a private archive of pain, became my weapon. Every page, every screenshot, every email spoke louder than I ever could. The court listened. They saw the will, my grandmother's words that had been buried. They saw the bank statements, the trail of money redirected into Michael's wedding. They even played my mother's own words from the live stream, her voice echoing in the courtroom. Without me, my children are nothing. It was enough. The ruling came down in my favor. I was awarded the inheritance that had been stolen, with interest. It wasn't just about the money. It was about recognition, acknowledgement that I had been wronged. My knees nearly buckled when the verdict was read, but inside, something lifted. For the first time, justice wasn't just an abstract word. It was real, and it had my name on it. Meanwhile, the public's view of my mother collapsed. Her carefully curated image dissolved. Former friends stopped calling. The churchwomen who once praised her charity now whispered about her betrayal. Strangers on the internet dissected every photo she had ever posted, every word she had ever said. She was no longer Linda, the saintly matriarch. She was Linda, the fraud. I should have felt vindicated, but instead, I felt hollow. Victory doesn't erase the years of silence, the nights I cried myself to sleep, the birthdays forgotten. It doesn't give you back what was stolen, not really. One morning, as I sifted through a mountain of supportive letters from strangers, I found an envelope that froze me in place. The handwriting was familiar. It was Michael's. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. His words were shaky, uneven. "Rachel, I don't expect you to forgive me. I knew what Mom was doing, and I didn't stop her. I chose comfort over courage, and I let you carry the weight. I was wrong. If there's any part of you that can find space for me again, I want to try." My chest tightened. For years, I had painted him as blind, manipulated. Now I knew he had known all along. And yet, here he was, reaching for something like redemption. I folded the letter carefully, placing it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to answer. Maybe I never would be. Life moved forward, slowly, painfully, but forward. I didn't return to the old house. I didn't chase reconciliation. Instead, I built something new. A chosen family, friends who knew my story and loved me not despite it, but because of it. People who stood by me without demanding I shrink myself. I started writing. At first, it was just journal entries, then blog posts. Stories poured out of me. The nights I worked 3 jobs to survive college, the manipulation I hadn't recognized until too late, the silent complicity that cut deeper than any word. Readers connected instantly. Emails flooded in. I thought I was alone until I read this. You put into words what I've never been able to say. What had once been my private wound became a bridge. My pain became someone else's survival guide. Months later, I sat in front of a camera again, this time not trembling, not desperate. It was a televised interview. The host leaned forward and asked, "Rachel, after everything you've endured, do you think you'll ever forgive your family?" I took a deep breath, steady and calm. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for me. I can't live chained to bitterness. I forgave so I could be free. Not to excuse them, but to release myself from the prison they built. The words hung in the air, heavier than applause, lighter than silence. In that moment, I realized I had done it. I had broken free from the golden cage, from hope to betrayal, from despair to rage, from action to justice. Every emotion had carved me raw. But now, at last, I stood in peace. Not because they had changed, not because they had begged, but because I no longer needed their approval to exist. I walked out of the studio that day into bright sunlight, lifting my face to the sky. For the first time in my life, I felt whole. And that was the sweetest revenge of all.